In today on a cemetery hunt. This is one that's not a off in the woods lost cemetery. It's in the town of Amity, Missouri, and I'm here on a research find for the Russell family, lady that lives in California, I believe. And so just wanted to kind of give a little background on this kind of history hunt that I like to do. I've been to the Historical Society with some information that she gave me, and been through census records, kind of created a little family tree so I know who to look for. I actually came out yesterday and took quite a few pictures, but it was so bright and sunny I couldn't see some of them. So I thought I'd come back today, and it's a little bit rainy and overcast today. Might be able to see some of the stones a little better. And so this is the town of Amity we're getting ready to come into. This is the old Amity Methodist Church, and it's still active today. Good little congregation there. The town itself is not huge. I maybe say a couple hundred people, but mostly farming community around here. So I wanted to kind of give you a little shot of going through the town. There's some old houses here that aren't used anymore, and I believe we're coming up on the old school building off in the distance, which has been turned into a either mechanical shop or some kind of business here. There's the old school building, but we're coming upon, there's a little farm there with a couple horses, but we're coming upon the cemetery, which is right at the edge of town. There's a pretty lake out here. I'm not sure what the history of the cemetery is, if there was ever a church on the cemetery grounds, or if it was just right outside of town that the community used. So thought I'd just do a little walkthrough, show you some of the things I've been looking for, maybe even share this with Julie, who's been asking me about some family history. So here we go. I'm going to pull in here, and I'll actually go through the main entrance. There's a collection of family members that are pretty close together, and then there's some extended family, nieces, nephews, and things that are kind of spread around, so I'll try to collect that. Here's the pretty entrance way, Amity Cemetery. So we'll come right in here. Give you a little look around at the cemetery. You can see the storm rolling in. We're in the middle of wind farm area. That's been a few years of windmills around. So I'll get out and take a few more pictures and a little bit of video. I've gotten out of my Jeep here, and I know right near this area, the person I was actually looking for is Nancy Quarles Russell, who married Isaac Newton Russell. She is supposedly buried here. I came out yesterday and couldn't find the stone, so I'm having some research done on that. But I just want to show you, I found this is her brother, Joseph Absalom Quarles, and this is his stone. And then I also see next to him is his wife Isabel, and they're buried right here. There's a lot of family members, and ones that are directly or kind of shirt tail relatives buried around here. This one over here, I think, is the main one I was looking for. Another one that I was looking for. This is the stone of Dennis Downing, and it says Dennis Downing. Good, we can see it better today. Born 1823, died 1896, and underneath says Elizabeth M. Downing, which I think is Morse, born August 24th, 1839, and died 1924. So this was Nancy's mother, and she married Dennis Downing. I need to check with Julie and see later if my records aren't confused. It looks like she had married again later, because it shows Joseph living with her on a farm, Joseph, her son, and his family, and she's married to a David Cox. And so I'm not sure if that's correct or not, but she's buried here, and it says Elizabeth M. Downing. So I'm pretty sure this is right. That family history might need to be researched a little bit, or she probably knows and I don't. But thought that was kind of neat. This is one of the stones we were looking for. Right over here, between these two, there's Joseph and there's Dennis Downing. So between here, we have Eugene Quarles, and I want to say that that is a son of Joseph's, but he's buried here. This is Nancy's sister, I believe, Stella F. Hall. Stella F. Greer Hall. We researched that. I believe that's her. And right next to the Quarles family. And right down the road from where the other Joseph Quarles is buried. So I'll look around just a little bit more, see if I can catch a couple more of this family. I forgot to show that on the side of the stone that says Dennis Downing, on the side is a less than 1 year old. The name is Robert R. Russell, born 1891 in October, died June 12th, 1892. So that's probably one that wouldn't show up on census records or anything like that. And so you might do a little research on who was Robert Russell. Child burial. You see the footstone for Dennis is about 6 feet away, but there's also a footstone for RRR, Robert R. Russell. And so it's a little bit shorter. I assume that's his burial there. Part of my video footage was lost, so I'm going to use some pictures to show the missing stones. This one I got from Find a Grave. This is the stone for Art Trussell and Leah Trussell. Leah is the daughter of Nancy, the person we've been looking for, and she married Art Trussell, and this is their stone. Leah died in 1905, and so Art married Nellie Vogelman in 1909, and their stone is also right next to this one, just inside the front gate of the cemetery. And just a little further down, this says Frances A. Trestle. She's the daughter of Jacob and R.J. Trestle, born 1867, died 1903. And the Jacob and Rebecca are buried right next to it. Looking on the side, I don't see any other markings, but here is Jacob and Rebecca, parents of Francis that we just saw. And if I understand it right, Leah is Rebecca's stepniece and Art is Jacob's son. So another little history there. This is a family marker for the graveyard, and I'm assuming that T is for Trussell family. As I'm walking through here, I keep seeing the name Wagers, and it reminded me that there was a family named Wagers where Isaac Newton Russell, Nancy or Nanny's wife or husband, worked there, and she was living right next door. So I'm assuming that's how they met. And so I kept an eye out for Coleman Wagers, and I think I did find that right here. This says Wagers, and Coleman Wagers was the owner of the farm where Isaac Newton Russell worked, and his name is on the side, Coleman Wagers. It says born 1860, I believe, or 1850. That may be right. Doesn't have a death date for him, so I'm assuming he died last. Sometimes that happens. The last person to die doesn't get their name on the stone, or their date on the stone. Susan, wife of C.B. Coleman B. Wagers, born 1850 also, died in 1902 at 51 years old. But this was the owner of the farm who hired Isaac, and at 21 years old, and 19-year-old Nanny was living next door, Nanny Quarles, and we're assuming they got together. They were living on the Downing farm next door because Elizabeth was married to Dennis Downing. So, all right, it's neat to tie these stones together. I always thought it'd be neat to take a cemetery, a little town cemetery like this, and just make a chart of how everybody's related. That would be quite a research project. Here in the back corner of the cemetery, some evergreen trees, and I can hear it's kind of overcast and rainy nearby, and so the frogs are up. You can hear them near the pond, but you can't hear very many birds. I think they're tucked in waiting for the storm to pass by. The other neat thing about living in a small town, and this is probably 5 miles from my house, I often, having lived here about 25 years, run across the stones of people that I've known and friends, and this is a good friend of ours, Helena Pettyjohn, who passed away last year. Wonderful woman of God, and also a great person who helped a lot of people, did a lot of sewing for, sent dolls to Haiti, and just anything she could do to give to others. So it's kind of neat to know that she's with the Lord now and receiving her reward. So we're seeing some beautiful stones. You can usually tell either the wealth or life insurance policies of people by the size of their headstones and things. And I knew there were a couple other Trussell stones here. This says Eva Jane Trussell, 1904 to 1909. Also, I'm sorry, that's 1909 to 1909. So, infant who died. Probably not recorded in the census. But next to that, this says Nettie L. Trussell, who's the daughter of TV and C.E. Trussell, the one that we looked at earlier. It's gone to a better land, born April 25th, 1905 to 1906. You could assume that's probably a sister, maybe, since it's next to it. But also born between census dates. And so could be one to add, Nettie L. Trussell. I know there are a couple other Trussell stones I want to find before I go. And I'm also looking for a Hayes, which is Sylvia Russell, who is the daughter of Joseph A. Absalom Russell, Nanny's brother, so be a niece to Nanny Russell. She married a Mr. Hayes, and she's supposedly buried here. So I'm gonna do a little bit more searching. This is a stone for Frida Mays, M-A-Y-S-E, name's written on the top. And it says, daughter of W.C. and Edith Mays, born 1899, died 1899. The Mays family is married into one of these families. I remember seeing it, so just thought I'd record that in case you do know the connection. And I'll try to find out what it is, go back and remember what it is from my work at the Historical Society here in the county. Great place to go. Local records, if you have a historical society, they usually keep records that you won't find anywhere else. So that's a possibility of a relative there. Some of the other things that you see when you're out here is sometimes you see stones for people who have not died yet, and it's unusual because I have people from my church, and this is my next door neighbors who are a wonderful couple, Idella and Robert Barton. Bob is, see, this says 1926 he was born, so in 6 years he will be 100. That doesn't sound right, but it could be. His wife Idella, they just had a great-great-grandchild born, There it is. Sorry about that. And but they're both still alive, but they're have things prepared. So it's kind of neat to see people that you've talked to and go to a cemetery and see their stones. But they are prepared for, got all their things lined up in a row, ready for the future. Sometimes it's neat to see how people's names, I know in cemetery records their names sometimes reflect how they say their names. And I thought this one was kind of neat. I haven't seen one like this before. Susanna Osborne. That's probably how they said her name. This is Susanna. Probably Susanna, but Susanna. Neat look back into the history of the past. Kind of like time travel sometimes. And here's a couple more Trussell stones that I knew I'd seen. Ernest Trussell, and I know he is a relative of the Russell family. I remember seeing his name in the family history I looked at, and I think this is his wife, Genora I. Trestle. So, all right, I think we might have found most of the family members. I still hadn't found Elizabeth, but my friend Ron, who's the cemetery board president, he is researching those records, and I think Julie has found that somewhere. She texted me yesterday. But it's just a neat opportunity to look at history. These are all memorials of people's lives, and I don't think of them as memorials of their death, but the memorials of their life. And you can just to remember that they were here and they impacted our world, and this is just a remembrance that they have been here. I'm feeling some sprinkles, so I think the rain is about to come. Sky sure looks like it. All right, I hope you have a great day, and signing off from Missouri, Amity, Missouri Cemetery. Bye-bye.